Hey everybody, welcome back to my channel. My name is Zara. Today I'm going to be giving you fantasy recommendations that are Middle Eastern or kind of North African inspired. I've had quite a few requests for this video, so here you go. I have split it into books that I have personally read and can, vouch for, and books that I haven't read but plan to read, so that you can go check those out yourself. There's quite a lot of books in the haven't read section, and I can't wait to get to all of these books at some point or another. So let's get started. On the books that I have read, we have the David Bad trilogy by S.A. Chakraborty. The first book is The City of Brass. This is a phenomenal series that is kind of very, I would say, like North African. It kind of reminded me of like Morocco and Egypt, North African inspired, kind of mythology around like jinns and spirits. It's a really authentic feeling experience, in my opinion. And Chakraborty has a really beautiful way of capturing the spirit of North African, Middle Eastern mythology and culture that I really appreciate. She also wrote another book recently, which I have a review of on my channel, so go check it out, and that's The Adventures of Amina al-Sarafi, which I believe is going to be another trilogy, I'm not sure. And I would say the exact same thing for that as I would for the David Bad trilogy. So go check those out. The next one is the Al-Aqsa duology by Hadia El-Spy. And the first book in that is The Daughters of Istihar. Also have a review of this. Really, really, really great story. Also reminds me of kind of North Africa, Egypt and Morocco. A lot of the kind of food that she references reminds me of Morocco. I don't know if that's accurate, but it definitely reminds me of Morocco. It's a very like female-centric story about these like really incredible women who have a lot of strength in different ways. And I wouldn't say there's tons of mythology or anything, but she captures again the essence of North Africa really, really well, in my opinion. Next, we have A Quiet Vengeance by Tim Hardy. This is a book I've also done a review on my channel, but this is a story that felt very kind of Middle Eastern inspired to me, maybe veering into kind of South Asia as well. Like I think some of the parts remind me of like India and Pakistan. Don't quote me on that though. It's very kind of character centric. I wouldn't say if at all actually that there's any mythology or anything like that, but it's set in a world that felt very Middle Eastern / South Asian specific. Really, really good book as well. The next is the Sansi trilogy by Chelsea Abdullah. The first book is The Stardust Thief. This is a book that I also read this year and I really enjoyed, and I'm really excited to see where it goes. The trilogy is definitely very Middle Eastern inspired. The author is actually from Kuwait, I believe, or she's half Kuwaiti, and you can definitely feel the influence in the book. There is some mythology in the book, again, very similar to the David Bad trilogy by Chakraborty. Lots of kind of references to jinn and the kind of jinn gods, which I thought was really cool, and like I hadn't really read that before, so definitely go check that out if you're interested in that. And then the last one that I have read is the Books of Ambar duology by Tasha Suri. The first book is Empire of Sand. I've read the first book, not the second book. So I personally didn't really enjoy this series. I thought it was really boring and like the characters were very cookie cutter. But there is a lot of, again, like jinn. You'll see a common theme. I think a lot of Middle Eastern, North African fantasy focuses on jinns because I feel like it's the thing that people know most about those regions. This one is much more inspired by India, actually. If I remember correctly, I felt like a lot of the world building reminded me of a kind of medieval version of India. So even though not Middle Eastern inspired, I think it will give you the same vibes. It feels very magical, the same way that the David Bad trilogy feels, or any of the other books that I've mentioned. So if you're looking for something Middle Eastern, definitely check out this one. You might enjoy it a lot more than I did. I think I read it after I finished the David Bad trilogy, which was probably not the best idea, to be honest. But yeah, check it out. You might like it. And then the ones that I haven't read, I've got quite a few recommendations. So I cannot personally, vouch for these. The Princess Star. I'm also not going to do plot summaries. I'm putting these on your radar. These are ones that I've personally researched and have on my list. So feel free to go and have a look and see what you think. So first is The Lions of Al Rassan by Guy Gavriel Kay. I'm kind of cheating on this one because it is actually set in Spain, but it's set in Moorish Spain, which is when the Muslims ruled a particular part of Spain, the south of Spain. And it's very influenced by that period of time when there was like the Islamic Enlightenment, when the rest of Europe was basically in the Dark Ages. I believe it's heavily inspired by that. So even though it's not technically set in North Africa or Middle East or South Asia. It is set in a world where the people who are ruling that country or that part of that country come from North Africa. So go check it out. I really cannot wait to read this book. I'm planning to read it this year. It's just a matter of when. It's also only a standalone, so you're not having a big commitment. The next is the Song of the Shattered Sand series by Bradley Beaulieu. The first book is The 12 Kings of Sharakai. I think this is a really, really, really long series. I think there's like 6+ books and the books are really chunky, but I've heard that there's like a desert setting and that to me is enough. And I think there's this kind of tension between East meets West in this. And that's something that I personally find very interesting. So if that sounds interesting to you, then go check it out. Next is The Golem and the Jinni trilogy by Helen Wecker. The first book is The Golem and the Jinni. This is a series that I've heard, or book I should say, that I've heard like literally nothing bad about it. Like I've heard a lot of people raving about it. I don't know anything about the author and whether, you know, what her experience is or knowledge is about the topic that she's writing, but I am very curious as to whether it feels authentic. And if you have read it, let me know, because I am very curious. I do want to read it, but it's like right at the bottom of this list, I would say, because I don't know whether it's actually going to scratch the itch that I want it to. So if you have read it, let me know. Next is the Wrath and the Dawn trilogy by Renee Adia. And the first book is The Wrath and the Dawn. I believe this is like new adult. I could be wrong though. And I really love the covers of these books. They're so beautiful. And I think it's following a young woman as she's kind of, you know, kind of figuring things out. Very kind of classic epic fantasy, I would say. I don't know much about the lore, but I've heard that this one does feel very authentic. And I think it's much more North African inspired. Next is the Sands of Adawiya trilogy by Hafsa Faisal. The first book is We Hunt the Flame. This is actually a YA series, and I actually had the first book and I ended up giving it to a charity shop because even though the cover was absolutely beautiful, I'm not interested in reading YA anymore, and I've heard pretty mixed feelings about the series. But I think, look, if you're looking for something for YA that could read quite quickly, this might scratch the itch of reading something set in a different time and region. I don't know. Let me know if you've read it. I'd be really curious to hear your thoughts. The next one we've got is An Ember in the Ashes by Saba Tahir. The first book is An Ember in the Ashes. This is a quartet. I actually have owned this quartet for years and I've just never got to it. I think it's YA kind of, and by the time that the series finishes, it kind of gets up to new adult. And I believe it's like a multi-POV kind of epic fantasy, lots of politics, lots of intrigue and people, you know, backstabbing each other. I think there's a romance plot as well, quite a big romance subplot line too. So I feel like it's got a little bit of everything. Yeah, I'm excited to read this one. I do want to read it. I bought the ebooks recently because the editions that I have are the Fairy Loot ones and they're really beautiful and I don't want to get them dirty. But yeah, this is one that I would really like to get to at some point. Next, we have the Spice Road trilogy by Maya Ibrahim, with the first book being The Spice Road. I've not really heard anybody talk about this book. It kind of gives me similar vibes to Daybabad, and I don't really know kind of what the setting is. I just know that it's like Middle Eastern, North African. But I do actually have the ebook of this. I bought it recently, so I'm planning to read this one relatively soon, and I can report back once I know more. If you've read it though, let me know. I'm really curious to hear more about it. Another recommendation in the same vein, and that is the Scorched Throne trilogy by Sarah Hashem. The first book being The Jasad Heir. Literally don't know anything about this book. I was just really curious by the cover, and obviously the author has a Middle Eastern name. So I thought, okay, this must be Middle Eastern inspired, given the title of the book. Don't know anything about it, and I don't really want to read anything about it, but if you have read it, let me know if you liked it, because I am curious. Two more recommendations. We have The Crescent Moon Kingdoms trilogy, I think it is, by Saladin Ahmed. The first book is The Throne of the Crescent Moon. I really cannot wait to read Saladin Ahmed. I've only heard really, really good things about their writing. This is a series that I'm hoping to get to soon. I think they're also like, I think it's like a novella series, so the books are like pretty short. I think this author has also written a bunch of other short stories. So this is a no-brainer for me because they're short and it's, I think, North African inspired. So I'm sold. And then finally we have the Gunmetal Gods trilogy by Zamil Akhtar, with the first book being Gunmetal Gods. This is a cyberpunk epic fantasy with, I believe, South Asian kind of lore, I believe. That would make sense because Zamil is South Asian, so that would make sense. But this is a series that I cannot wait to get to. I have the first 2 books and I'm really, really excited. I believe his 3rd book came out recently, so now that it's complete, I believe, I will probably end up picking this series sooner rather than later, so definitely watch this space for that. So those are the recommendations that I have. If you have read any of the books that I mentioned in the haven't read section, just let me know your thoughts down below. No spoilers, please. Give me your your high level thoughts. I'll definitely prioritize based on that, and I think it would be good for other people as well if they're interested. I hope this was useful. I just know that people want more Middle Eastern, North African, South Asian recommendations, and so I thought, you know what, let me just compile a list because I have a list in my brain. So I hope this is useful. I will, as always, do my reviews as I read through these. If there's any other requests like this type of list, let me know. Hope you find it useful, and thanks for watching, everybody. Stay safe, as always, take care, and I'll speak to you soon. Bye.